Here now to discuss Fox News political contributor Tammy Bruce. She's also Independent Women's Voice president and a Washington Times columnist. Emma Siegfried, author of GOP GPS and the president of Some Consulting. Fox News contributor Rory Murdoch, also National Review contributing editor. And retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, a Fox News contributor, also former Florida Congressman. Colonel West, let me start with you. A lot of pressure from all sides from President Trump in that press conference with Vladimir Putin. He did try, or he clarified his comments today. How much does that mean to you? And as someone who has really been worried about Russia and Vladimir Putin's grand ambitions, do you feel better?
Well, when you look at the actions on the ground, it's good to be with you, Charles, and all your guests there. The actions on the ground speak loudly about how President Trump and the administration is dealing with Russia. It's just that you have that one opportunity, one-on-one, and you had a very pointed question, and the president didn't respond as well and as strong as he could have. But I think as long as he continues on the path of the policies that we see on the ground, what's happening with the Baltic states, increasing the contributions of NATO, increasing the lethal aid support to the Ukraine, and keeping the pressure there on ISIS and Syria, and also sending the oil and natural gas into Eastern Europe. Those are the things that matter. I just think that there was an opportunity that was missed, that a lot of people all across the global stage were looking at, and doesn't mean that he can't recover from it.
Tammy, you agree?
Well, I do, and I think that, look, all of us, of course, are great armchair quarterbacks, right, sitting at home, all comfy about what we want.
I've won a lot of Super Bowls myself.
Yeah. I'm sure you have. But, we're all geniuses, right, it's like what he should say and what he shouldn't say. This is a man, though, and I've learned this because I've been critical of the president. I've learned to look at the end result and to not generally trust the analysis of the legacy media and others who think they know better. I look at the end of what's going to be accomplished, and I think in this case, like with the rest of his foreign policy, he has been successful. He has delivered. And keep in mind, the same people complaining that he wasn't strong enough with Putin were complaining.
But yesterday, and right at the immediate conclusion at the press conference, How did you feel about it?
I thought he could have been better, and I think that at the same time, I was reflecting on what has he been doing about Russia. Also, there's a 2-hour meeting none of us are privy to leading up to that. I also expected no matter what he said, he would be attacked, and I was waiting, and there it was. But remember, he was attacked for effectively not being strong enough with Putin. We were also told when he was being very strong and aggressive with North Korea, he was going to cause World War III. So you can't win. But he had an opportunity to put certain things to rest. And I think he's going to hear the criticism, but at the same time, look at what he accomplishes, and that's what we need to focus on.
Evan, you were certainly critical yesterday and even this morning. Now that you've heard President Trump clarify some of his comments, how are you feeling now?
His clarification didn't go far enough. He actually undercut himself in the clarification. The intelligence community, which he said he accepted the findings of, that it was Russia, they said it was Russia and Russia alone. And then he said, and it could have also been other actors. So that completely discounts it. He also didn't take into account the other statements, I believe Putin. He's saying he's strong. And he was not standing up for America and American values. I have never heard this president, be it on the campaign trail or as president, stand up for American exceptionalism. I don't think he can articulate that.
For American exceptionalism?
He says we're going to make America great again.
That was his entire campaign slogan, wasn't it? Make America great again. How many hundreds of times did you hear that?
He attacks America and says, oh, we're bad at this, we're bad at that. He's never going out and saying, he's never championing the cause of freedom.
I don't think it's an attack on America for the President of the United States to go to this NATO summit in Brussels and get the NATO allies to spend 2% of GDP, which they're committed to do under treaty,
state that.
Which is great. And so he did that, and that was excellent. First, they said, oh, he's being so mean to the allies. And in fact, they're spending more money, something like $44 billion more. And by the way, those weapons are generally going to be aimed east towards Moscow. This is not good for Putin. So the idea that somehow Trump is a Putin puppet, yet he's increasing NATO spending makes no sense. Totally illogical.
You're conflating what I'm saying, where I'm talking about purely his Helsinki summit with Vladimir Putin. I thought the results from NATO were actually quite good and strong.
Well, you're generous to say that. Most people don't say that. I heard from Brennan yesterday that this is goes above and beyond the definition of treason. I thought this was unbelievable and appalling statement.
Needs to, sit down and take
a
read.
Let me bring Colonel West back in. We do know that there has been a distinct difference, though, between actions and the way that press conference went, whether it was the Javelin systems sold to Ukrainians, whether it was the weapons sold to Poland and other countries to rebuff sort of a military shield, Colonel West, against a potential Russian invasion. And so I think that's where a lot of people were caught flat-footed. The actions have been very strong. It felt like President Trump played into the hands of his critics yesterday. He did try to clarify it today. So where do we go from here?
Well, I think one of the most important things is we continue on with the policy that we see on the ground. Without a doubt, this moment has passed, but it doesn't, like I said, doesn't mean that the president can't recover from it. I think what we were looking for with President Trump was that one opportunity for him to look at this bully, which is Vladimir Putin, and finally, not wag your finger at him, but definitely say that we know who you are, we know what you've been doing. We're trying to establish a better relationship, but we're not going to be a pushover like the previous administration or anyone else. I'm not looking into your eyes and into your soul. And I think that now the president needs to talk about additional sanctions if he sees any other interference into our 2018 elections. And we need to continue to keep up the military support and the joint exercises and combined exercises we have in the Baltics.
And Tammy, I mean, I think one of the issues, at least for the president, appears to be he grapples with the idea, okay, there's meddling and then there's collusion. And the idea that, the critics continue to say, hey, this was not a legitimate win. You should not be president of the United States. That seems to bother him more than anything else. And it was obvious, and to your point, Evan, sort of the conversation, how it goes from meddling and then it seeps into collusion, and they sort of converge into one.
Yeah, he conflates the two. He conflates the two, and look, in a lot of ways, you can't blame him because this is the first time. Obama he quashed any investigation during the election. It's been going on for quite some time, and so now finally there's an investigation, but attached to the nature of that this election was not legitimate. But I think that when it comes to the political rhetoric, he must unconflate them, and you can see that there is meddling, which of course was not effective at all.
Everyone agrees to that.
But also I have to say that there is some legitimate questions. Remember, the same people who are saying this now were telling us that when it comes to the intelligence community, when it came to Iraq and WMD, that there were problems when it came to information.
Well,
so
the same people that didn't think Russia was a threat before think Russia was a
Don't question the intelligence community to a man who is still continuing an attack and an active assault per the director of national intelligence on Friday. And it's good to actually want to have a better relationship with Russia. But if you're getting punched in the face, you don't say, oh, I'm not going to do anything about it. I'm just going to try and have a better relationship. You get them to stop.
Evan, you're giving a lot of credit to the Russians who have been able to do nothing. Who have
you're not recognizing a real threat.
Excuse me, I recognize them perfectly. They have a GDP lower than Texas. Russia did not affect this election, and for you to suggest
I didn't say they were affecting the election.
And for you to suggest that they are punching us in the face is ridiculous.
The director of national intelligence said it's still ongoing.
Don't presume because we understand what's going on here. Evan, excuse me. Don't put us in the same category as people who don't understand what Russia's doing.
You don't understand what's happening right now. It's clear by what you just said.
Charles, there's one thing we need voter ID. So if there's any meddling going on, we'll know who the people are going to vote.
What we're not liking is this attempt by liberals to cast everyone as traitors or as ignorant.
We're going to touch on that. We're going to touch on the hysteria in the next segment. I promise you, folks. We'll be right back.